Imagine a moment of profound awakening, a truth so vital it could redefine your path to freedom. Carl Jung, a titan of psychology, unveiled a terrifying yet liberating insight about narcissists. When they sense their grasp on you slipping, when they realize they can no longer orchestrate your life, they don't simply retreat. Instead, they unleash a final, devastating maneuver. Jung termed manufactured vulnerability. This isn't just a tactic, it's a sophisticated psychological weapon, meticulously crafted to unravel years of painstaking healing and hard-won progress in mere weeks. It's a cunning trap that preys on the most beautiful part of you. Jung's profound warning echoes through time. This final dirty trick is the narcissist's deadliest weapon because it cunningly turns your greatest asset, your boundless empathy, into a vulnerability, striking at the very core of your freedom. Even now, countless souls who believed they had broken free are being ensnared once more, simply because they fail to recognize this sophisticated manipulation. Yet, Jung didn't merely expose this pattern. He meticulously charted its intricate workings, understood its insidious effectiveness, and, most crucially, forged the pathway to impenetrable protection. Have you ever noticed a peculiar pattern where a narcissist seems to plunge into crisis precisely when you feel strongest, most independent? This is no mere coincidence. This is psychological warfare, a strategic assault on your hard-won peace. At stake is everything you've painstakingly built, every sacred boundary you've erected, every ounce of self-respect you've reclaimed, every courageous stride towards an authentic life. All of it stands vulnerable, capable of being shattered by this single manipulation if you don't anticipate its arrival. Decades Jung dedicated to unraveling the enigma of narcissistic personalities, and his discoveries are chilling. Narcissists don't just crave control. They are driven by an insatiable need to prove that your perceived strength was always an illusion, a fragile facade. They yearn to demonstrate that, at your core, you remain the same person who once depended on them. Perhaps you feel safe now, having diligently set your boundaries, identified their gaslighting, and educated yourself on love bombing and other manipulative tactics. But Jung unveiled a critical blind spot in conventional advice on narcissistic abuse. It often overlooks the most perilous phase. What transpires when they truly perceive your blossoming independence? This is no longer about overt, easily spotted manipulations. This is a calculated psychological strike, custom designed for resilient individuals who believe they've mastered the game. Jung christened it the power inversion crisis, that pivotal moment when the narcissist senses their victim has become psychologically stronger than them. The true cost of remaining oblivious to this pattern extends far beyond merely relapsing into old dynamics. It threatens to erode your self-trust, cast doubt upon your healing journey, and ultimately compel you to abandon the vibrant, authentic life you've tirelessly sculpted. But when you embrace Jung's profound insights into this ultimate manipulation, something truly transformative occurs. You don't just shield yourself, you complete your psychological liberation, becoming a bastion of unshakable selfhood, truly unmanipulable. Jung's eyes were opened to something far more sinister than mere selfishness during his clinical practice. He encountered a woman, a textbook example of a victim of narcissistic abuse, who had endured a lifetime of manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional torment from her husband. But the story took a chilling turn. With every step she took towards recovery, every boundary she set, every surge of strength she felt, her husband would mysteriously plunge into a crisis, pulling her back into his orbit. What first appeared as coincidence soon revealed itself as a stark, undeniable pattern across many patients. These narcissists weren't just experiencing random misfortunes. They were strategically crafting crises that perfectly synchronized with their victims' moments of empowerment. His partner's dishonesty illuminated Heinrich's own tendency to guard his true feelings, to hide behind a facade. And the ultimate betrayal, It showed Heinrich his own capacity for selfishness, a shadow he had refused to acknowledge. By bravely facing these shadow aspects within himself, rather than projecting them outwards onto others, Heinrich achieved what Jung called psychological immunity. He could now perceive other people's behavior as objective information about them, rather than personal attacks on him. The most devastating part is what Jung termed the shadow projection reversal. The energy parasite doesn't merely consume your light, they skillfully convince you that giving it away is your ultimate purpose, your highest calling. Jung witnessed this insidious pattern repeatedly in his practice. He wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. But in the dynamic between empaths and energy parasites, this profound truth is twisted. At the middle tier, narcissists demand to feel superior. They achieve this by ensuring others remain confused, dependent, or perpetually struggling. Remember those times you sought their approval, doubted your own reality, or tiptoed on eggshells? You were unknowingly nourishing this deeper, more insidious need. But the most sinister level of all, Jung revealed, is their desperate need to assert dominance over strong, capable individuals. Anyone can control someone already broken, but to control a spirit that has fiercely fought its way back to strength? Think back to the last time you felt utterly drained after an interaction. Your body, your inner wisdom, likely provided you with unmistakable signals: a sudden, inexplicable fatigue, an overwhelming emotional burden, palpable physical tension, or a disconcerting brain fog. Yet, instead of heeding these crucial warnings, you probably rationalized them, telling yourself you were being too sensitive or overthinking things. This, precisely, is the narrative the energy parasite needs you to believe. 3. What is this trigger trying to teach me about myself, about a hidden part of my own psyche? Let's illustrate this with an inspiring example. Sarah, a driven marketing manager, found herself constantly exasperated by her colleague, Tom's frequent interruptions during meetings. Applying Jung's method, she asked herself, what am I judging in Tom? His insatiable need for attention, his desire to dominate the conversation. Then, the crucial second question: where do I do this? To her surprise, she recognized that in moments of insecurity, or when she felt her contributions weren't valued, she, too, would often dominate conversations, seeking validation. In our rapidly evolving modern world, individuals can inadvertently trigger this nigredo through dedicated spiritual practices, often without any conscious understanding of the immense transformative journey they are embarking upon. They awaken to the profound emptiness of a life driven solely by ego, yet find themselves utterly devoid of a map or framework for what lies beyond. But Jung's research uncovered something even more extraordinary. The individuals who achieved this state of emotional impermeability had discovered a psychological space that most humans never access: the sacred gap between stimulus and response. Heinrich described this revelation to Jung with vivid clarity. "Doctor, when someone insults me, I experience something truly strange. Time itself seems to slow down. I can see their words approaching me, but instead of striking me, they hover, suspended in the air. In that exquisite moment, I have a choice. Do I grasp these words and make them mine, allowing them to shape my inner state? Or do I simply let them pass through me, like light through glass?" Stage 3. The empathy activation. Once they've skillfully hooked your profound compassion, the systematic extraction begins. They orchestrate crisis after crisis, each demanding your emotional labor, your unwavering attention, your comforting presence. They trauma dump without any reciprocation, pouring their burdens onto you. They make you feel uniquely special for understanding them, for seeing their pain when others supposedly couldn't. Jung keenly observed that empaths often tragically mistake being desperately needed for being truly loved. She was in the profound chrysalis phase of human development, that mysterious, transformative space between the caterpillar and the magnificent butterfly, where, from the outside, everything might appear as a shapeless, formless void. Through their intensive work, Jung meticulously crafted what he termed the individuation framework, a precise and compassionate process designed to guide individuals through the psychological death and rebirth ignited by spiritual awakening. The technique Jung developed was deceptively simple, yet psychologically profound. He called it the observer protocol. When triggered, instead of immediately reacting, you learn to step back mentally and observe the trigger as if watching a scene unfold in a movie. You notice the other person's words, their body language, their emotional state, but most importantly, you observe your own internal response. The rising heat, the tightening jaw, the racing thoughts, all without becoming that response. You are the impartial witness, the unwavering awareness behind the fleeting emotion. Jung documented countless cases of patients mastering this technique. Maria, a dedicated teacher, learned to observe her principal's sharp criticism without absorbing it personally. Instead of defensively lashing out, she could now perceive his underlying stress, the immense pressure he faced from the school board, his own insecurities. From this powerful observer position, she could choose to respond with empathy and understanding, offering solutions rather than succumbing to anger. In Jungian psychology, every archetype possesses its shadow. The empath's shadow isn't cruelty or indifference. It is the unconscious, deep-seated need to be needed. It is an addiction to fixing others, believing that being useful is somehow safer than being truly seen and loved for who you are. It is the terror of abandonment, so profound that you might unconsciously accept emotional vampirism rather than risk the agonizing prospect of being alone. Energy parasites are not inherently evil individuals consciously plotting your destruction. They are, in essence, unconscious beings, driven by what Jung termed the shadow's hunger for wholeness. They instinctively sense in you precisely what they have exiled and denied within themselves: the profound capacity for genuine feeling, for authentic connection, and for true emotional depth. But instead of embarking on the arduous inner work required to reclaim these vital qualities for themselves, they have, tragically, learned to steal them from others. Jung categorized all human motivation into two distinct realms: persona-driven and self-driven. Persona-driven motivation emanates from your false self, the carefully constructed mask you present to the world, designed to secure approval, sidestep rejection, and uphold your social identity. This encompasses the relentless pursuit of career ambitions, the molding of relationship goals, the craving for external achievements, and the ceaseless chase for status. This is not a testament to their inherent malevolence, but to their profound psychological incompleteness. They have disowned their capacity for genuine emotion, and thus they must constantly consume it from external sources, much like a person with a broken digestive system who must keep eating but can never truly feel satisfied or nourished. Now, you stand before what we call the empath's impossible choice. You feel their pain, their gaping emptiness, their desperate, aching need for the very light you carry within you. Your compassionate nature yearns to help, to heal, to rescue them from their self-inflicted darkness. But Jung uncovered a truth that irrevocably alters everything. You cannot heal someone by allowing them to feed on your very essence. You cannot love someone back to wholeness by permitting them to relentlessly drain your light. 2. Observe. Witness the trigger and your internal response without judgment. Simply notice the sensations, thoughts, and emotions without labeling them as good or bad. 3. Choose. From this place of calm observation, deliberately choose your action based on your deepest values and intentions, rather than being swept away by impulsive reactions. The romantic energy vampire. Sarah met David at a spiritual retreat, drawn by his apparent depth, sensitivity, and a woundedness that resonated with her innate healing nature. He candidly shared his childhood trauma, his struggles with depression, his fervent search for meaning. Sarah felt uniquely chosen, special, believing she was the one person who truly understood him. But within months, Sarah noticed a creeping exhaustion. David would call during her workday with manufactured emotional crises. He would trauma dump for hours without ever inquiring about her day. She shared, "My life used to be a relentless chase, driven by anxiety, a gnawing fear of failure, the dread of rejection, the terror of never being enough. When that old engine of motivation sputtered and died after my awakening, I truly believed I was irrevocably broken. But then, slowly, gently, I began to notice a different kind of urge. I felt an undeniable pull to create, not to garner praise or impress anyone, but simply because the act of creation itself felt as essential and natural as breathing. I found myself wanting to help others, not for external validation or to be perceived as good, but because their suffering stirred something profound and compassionate within my very core." Jung understood. This authentic, self-driven motivation doesn't feel like traditional motivation in the least. It doesn't push, doesn't drive, doesn't demand. Instead, it calls, it whispers, it extends an open invitation. It feels less like I have to, and more like I get to. This is its profound sustainability. It springs from an inner abundance, not from a place of perceived scarcity or lack. The family energy parasite. Michael's mother had always been emotionally intense, a whirlwind of drama. She would call him with crisis after crisis, subtly yet powerfully making him feel utterly responsible for her well-being. If he didn't answer immediately, she would wield guilt like a weapon, accusing him of abandoning her. She would even threaten self-harm when he attempted to establish even the most basic boundaries. Jung would have immediately recognized this as the devouring mother archetype, the parent who unconsciously feeds on their child's life force rather than nurturing its independent growth. Michael's empathy had been weaponized against him since his earliest memories. When Michael bravely learned about energy parasitism, he realized his pervasive exhaustion wasn't a sign of being a bad son. It was the stark reality of being systematically drained by someone who had never learned to regulate her own emotions. Setting boundaries with his mother felt like an act of betrayal, but it was, in fact, an essential act of self-preservation, a reclamation of his very soul. 2. The ownership boundary. They possessed an acute ability to distinguish between their own emotions and other people's emotions. When someone expressed anger towards them, they could clearly perceive it as that person's anger, a reflection of their internal state, rather than feeling anger about that person's anger or personalizing it. Lisa's natural empathy made her feel profoundly obligated to provide endless emotional labor. Jung would have seen this as a classic case of projection. The colleague was unconsciously making their own emotional dysregulation everyone else's responsibility, while positioning themselves as the perpetual victim of an unfeeling world. But here is where Jung's warning takes on an undeniable urgency. The longer you allow energy parasites to feast on your light, the more you begin to merge with their shadow. You start to internalize their projection, believing the insidious lie that you exist solely to serve others' emotional needs. Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." For empaths, this profound truth means recognizing that your powerful compulsion to heal others often springs from your own unhealed wounds. "Doctor," he confided to Jung, "ever since I stopped reacting to provocation, people seem to work even harder to provoke me. It's as if my calm disturbs them more profoundly than any anger ever could." Jung realized this was because emotionally reactive people often use others' reactions as a way to regulate their own volatile emotional states. When Heinrich refused to provide that external regulation, it forced others to confront their own internal psychological instability, often leading to intensified attempts at provocation. The immutable truth is that no amount of external accomplishment, however grand, can ever truly fill an internal void. The energy parasite, in this twisted dynamic, becomes your enabler in a subtle form of spiritual bypassing. They provide you with someone to save, so you don't have to face the daunting task of saving yourself. They offer endless drama and external crises, so you don't have to confront your own shadows. They cast you in the role of the noble martyr, so you don't have to step into your rightful role as a sovereign, empowered being. 2. Response selection. You proactively pre-decide how you will handle common triggers. Instead of reacting impulsively in the moment, you are executing a pre-planned, value-aligned response. This transforms you from a reactor into a strategic responder, a master of your own actions. L. Discern energy signatures. Jung emphasized the critical importance of what he called feeling-toned complexes. Every person carries a unique energetic signature, a vibrational blueprint that your empathic abilities can intuitively read if only you know what to look for and trust your senses. Energy parasites feel distinctly different in your energetic system than healthy reciprocal people. With parasites, you will feel drained, anxious, confused, or emotionally hijacked after an interaction. With healthy individuals, you will feel energized, clear, peaceful, or genuinely inspired. However, Jung unveiled a crucial, often overlooked, truth. You cannot simply strip away false purposes, tearing down the old structures without actively nurturing and replacing them with authentic ones. Just as nature abhors a vacuum, the human psyche profoundly abhors meaninglessness. If you do not consciously, intentionally cultivate authentic purpose in the newly cleared space, you will inevitably fall into one of two traps, either relapsing back into the familiar, yet unfulfilling, grip of ego-driven goals, or remaining perpetually paralyzed in a state of aimless purposelessness. Integrate your shadow. Jung believed that shadow integration was absolutely essential for profound psychological health and wholeness. For empaths, this means bravely owning the parts of yourself that unconsciously yearn to be needed, that harbor a deep-seated fear of abandonment, that believe love must be endlessly earned through service. Ask yourself these courageous questions. What do I truly gain from being needed by broken people? How does rescuing others help me avoid my own necessary healing? What childhood wound am I still desperately trying to heal through the lives of others? The goal is not to eliminate these tendencies, but to bring them into conscious awareness, so they no longer unconsciously dictate your relationship choices and lead you down paths of depletion. Guard your sacred energy. Jung profoundly wrote, "Your vision becomes clear when you look into your heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens." Protecting your energy is not selfish. It is a sacred spiritual responsibility. This means learning to say a firm no to emotional labor that depletes your spirit. It means resolutely refusing to carry other people's unprocessed emotions as if they were your own. It means consciously choosing relationships that nourish, uplift, and reciprocate, rather than those that consistently drain you. Your energy is finite, precious, and sacred. Every moment you spend processing someone else's shadow is a moment you cannot dedicate to growing and expanding your own luminous light. However, accessing these profound, authentic desires demands what Jung termed conscious waiting. The courageous act of learning to sit patiently in the fertile field of purposelessness without succumbing to panic, thereby allowing something infinitely deeper and more genuine to emerge naturally in its own divine timing. After years of dedicated research into the phenomenon of post-awakening motivation loss, Carl Jung meticulously developed a precise, three-stage framework designed to transform spiritual emptiness into a vibrant, authentic purpose. For empaths, this means courageously owning your sensitivity as a tremendous strength, trusting your intuition as a profound source of wisdom, and using your gifts consciously, with intention and discernment, rather than being unconsciously driven by them. T. Transform trauma into wisdom. Jung famously said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." This includes accepting the difficult truth that you have been targeted by energy parasites, not because you are weak, but because you carry something uniquely precious and powerfully radiant that unconscious people instinctively want to consume. Your empathic abilities initially developed as a powerful survival mechanism. Now, they must consciously evolve into a deliberate, empowered choice. You can feel the emotions of others without absorbing them into your own being. I deeply honor what this motivation once provided, while consciously releasing what no longer genuinely serves my soul. Jung discovered that this conscious, intentional grieving profoundly accelerates the dissolution process, preventing the complex psychological complications that invariably arise when we desperately try to artificially sustain motivations that have already spiritually died. Attacks on your success frequently originate from those frustrated with their own unfulfilled achievements. Judgments about your life choices are often voiced by those grappling with profound doubts about their own decisions. Initially, she dismissed these as whimsical fantasies, given her complete lack of teaching experience. But Jung gently encouraged her to wholeheartedly follow the impulse, without needing to rationally comprehend its logic. Within a mere few months, Maria found herself joyfully volunteering at environmental education programs, feeling more vibrantly alive and deeply fulfilled than she had in years. This profound new motivation was not propelled by conventional career goals or societal expectations. It emanated from what Jung termed soul recognition, a deep knowing of her intrinsic purpose. The truly healthy people in your life will not only respect your boundaries, but will also celebrate your profound growth. They will understand when you need space, they will actively support your healing journey, and they will joyfully reciprocate the emotional energy you invest in the relationship. But here is the most crucial part of all. You must become the kind of person you genuinely want to attract. If you yearn for conscious relationships, you must first become deeply conscious yourself. If you desire reciprocal connections, you must learn the sacred art of receiving as well as giving. If you long for authentic love, you must show up authentically, bravely, rather than performing the role others want you to play. 1. What specific quality or aspect are they attacking in me? When you begin the courageous act of protecting your energy and setting sacred boundaries, you are not merely changing relationship dynamics. You are engaging in what we call the war for your soul. This is not metaphorical language. Your very essence, your light, your life force, is quite literally at stake. Energy parasites will deploy every weapon in their unconscious arsenal to maintain access to your light. Guilt. After everything I've shared with you, you're going to abandon me? Shame. I thought you were more compassionate than this. I must have been wrong about you. Fear. You're being selfish, and you'll end up alone, just like you always feared. Soul motivation feels profoundly, unequivocally different from ego motivation. Most individuals tragically overlook it because they are attuned to the wrong signals, searching for the familiar roar when a gentle whisper is present. Ego motivation is characterized by urgency, a relentless drive, and pervasive anxiety. It carries the weighty burden of, "I have to do this," or "something terrible will happen." It is relentlessly fueled by fear, a sense of scarcity, or the crushing weight of external pressure. You experience it as a persistent mental pressure in your head and a tightening, constricting tension in your body. In luminous contrast, soul motivation feels calm, magnetic, and utterly inevitable. It carries the joyful, expansive sense of, "I get to do this," because it is an expression of who I inherently am. It is fueled by an overflowing wellspring of love, boundless abundance, and pure, authentic expression. You feel its presence in your heart as a radiating warmth, and throughout your body as a vibrant, undeniable aliveness. But Jung gifted us the ultimate weapon against these insidious tactics: consciousness. When you can clearly see the manipulation for precisely what it is, it utterly loses its power over you. The profound truth is, every single time you say no to energy vampirism, you are saying a resounding yes to your own glorious evolution. Every boundary you bravely set is a powerful vote for your authentic self, a declaration of self-worth. Every time you refuse to dim your light for someone else's comfort, you are consciously choosing spiritual growth over spiritual stagnation, liberation over limitation. This does not mean you become cold, uncaring, or emotionally detached. On the contrary, it means you become profoundly discerning. You learn the crucial difference between genuine compassion and codependent caretaking. You discover the sacred wisdom of how to help others without ever harming yourself. But here's what Jung discovered that will change everything. When an empath truly awakens to their inherent power, they become a formidable force, a danger to systems built on unconsciousness. The process Heinrich described was deeply methodical. When triggered, instead of reacting or even just observing passively, he would immediately ask himself a series of profound questions. You cease to be a source to be consumed and transform into a catalyst for others' genuine growth and awakening. Soul motivation is collaborative. It gracefully works with the flow of life circumstances rather than futilely attempting to control or dominate them. Instead of pushing against resistance, it intuitively seeks and finds the path of least resistance, like water finding its way. Soul motivation is mysterious. Often, you won't fully comprehend why you are called to a particular path or impulse until long after you have bravely followed the calling. What unacknowledged shadow aspect are they forcing me to courageously confront and integrate? Comment below if you've ever been called selfish for setting boundaries with energy vampires. Declare it. My energy is sacred. You will discover that you would rather have one authentic reciprocal connection than a dozen draining relationships. You will realize that the quality of presence matters infinitely more than the quantity of people in your life. You will finally understand that your light is far too sacred to be consumed by those who steadfastly refuse to do their own inner work. You possess the innate capacity to become emotionally invulnerable, not through building impenetrable armor, but through the sacred alchemy of transforming every challenge into wisdom. This emotional alchemy involved 3 dynamic transformation processes. Jung observed that individuals who master the art of living from soul motivation often describe a profound, almost mystical experience. It feels as if their life is living them, rather than them laboriously living their life. They transform into luminous conduits for something far grander than their individual desires. Yet they remain beautifully and fully engaged with the practical realities of the world. The golden key is learning to trust those subtle impulses that resonate with well-being in your body, deeply align with your core values, and consistently generate, rather than deplete, your energy, even when these impulses defy the logical frameworks of your rational mind. 3. Strength synthesis. Consciously converting every discovered weakness, every confronted fear, every integrated shadow into a newly developed, resilient strength. Level 3. The sovereign empath. You have courageously integrated your shadow and fully own your empathic gifts as potent spiritual abilities, rather than perceiving them as emotional burdens. You can feel deeply, profoundly, without ever losing yourself in the process. You consciously attract conscious, wholehearted people who joyfully reciprocate your emotional investment. At this magnificent level, your empathy becomes a finely tuned tool for profound discernment rather than a trap for manipulation. You can intuitively sense others' authentic emotions versus their performed or projected emotions. You can offer a deeply healing presence without ever taking on others' wounds as your own. You become an anchor rather than a leaf blown by the wind. Yet, Jung also issued a solemn warning about the potential dark side of emotional alchemy. People who mastered it sometimes became so intensely focused on their own relentless growth and psychological evolution that they risked losing genuine empathy for those still struggling with basic emotional regulation. They could, at times, become psychologically superior, even emotionally distant. Heinrich experienced this subtle shift. "Doctor, sometimes I feel like I'm conducting a psychology experiment rather than simply living a human life. Every interaction becomes a chance to study human nature rather than to truly connect, heart to heart, with another person." Jung realized the ultimate challenge of emotional impermeability wasn't just achieving psychological transcendence, but crucially, maintaining profound humanity throughout the journey. The ultimate goal, he concluded, wasn't to become invulnerable, but to become anti-fragile, stronger, wiser, and more compassionate through every single challenge life presented. It will force you to confront the parts of yourself that would rather be needed than respected, that would rather be useful than authentic, that would rather be depleted than face the terrifying, yet ultimately liberating, prospect of standing alone in your truth. Some, in their fear, might use this information to justify building impenetrable walls instead of wise, permeable boundaries. They might become cynical about human connection rather than discerning about energetic exchange. They might confuse emotional unavailability with genuine spiritual strength. Do not make this crucial mistake. The ultimate goal is not to stop feeling or caring. The goal is to feel and care consciously, with intention and profound wisdom, rather than being driven by compulsion and unconsciousness. Jung's final warning was an enduring testament. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But becoming who you truly are requires the brave act of releasing who you think you should be for others' comfort. Your light is not a mere resource to be consumed. It is a radiant presence to be embodied. Your empathy is not a service to be tirelessly provided. It is a sacred gift to be shared consciously with discerning love. The world does not need more depleted healers. Initially, his profound immunity did create a certain distance. People found his unshakable calm unsettling, even, at times, threatening. But Jung helped him understand that true emotional immunity encompassed the ability to make others feel safe, understood, and genuinely held in their own emotional experiences. "Doctor," Heinrich reflected, "I realized my immunity was incomplete if it only protected me. If people started treating you differently, if the dynamics shifted once you stopped being their emotional dumping ground, then comment, 'They sensed my awakening before I announced it.'" Remember Jung's terrifying discovery about empaths being fed upon? The energy parasites he documented weren't inherently evil monsters. They were profoundly unconscious beings who had learned to survive by consuming the light of others rather than courageously kindling their own inner flame. Jung wrote in his final notes, "The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. You cannot solve the problem of energy parasites by trying to heal them from the outside. You can only outgrow your own unconscious need to be needed by them, thereby severing their access. This, Jung discovered, is the profound paradox of ultimate emotional immunity. It requires maintaining your humanity, not transcending it. The compassionate warrior can feel others' pain without suffering with them, can witness others' chaos without becoming chaotic, and can offer genuine support without ever becoming depleted. They learn to offer their radiant light to those who can truly receive it without depleting it, who can deeply appreciate it without consuming it, who can genuinely match it without ever dimming its glow. Jung's final warning wasn't just about protecting yourself from energy parasites. It was about claiming your divine birthright as a conscious being who chooses how to use their extraordinary gifts rather than being unconsciously driven to give them away. Your sensitivity is not a curse to be managed. It is a superpower to be mastered. Heinrich mastered this art so completely that people began actively seeking him out during their worst emotional crises. His mere presence seemed to possess an almost miraculous ability to calm others' inner storms. But he achieved this not through emotional detachment or cold indifference, but through profound emotional mastery, feeling everything, yet being controlled by nothing. Jung's final, poignant notes on Heinrich revealed the ultimate secret of emotional impermeability. He has learned to deeply love others' humanity, with all its beautiful messiness and flaws, while simultaneously remaining utterly untouchable by their chaos. This, Jung believed, is perhaps the highest achievement of human psychology, a profound, paradoxical blend of complete vulnerability and complete invulnerability. The businessman who couldn't be bothered became Jung's greatest, most inspiring case study in the boundless expanse of human psychological potential. Master this profound distinction, and you will never again confuse being drained with being loved, being needed with being truly valued, or being depleted with being genuinely devoted. Jung's warning was clear. They're feeding on your light. But his promise was even clearer. You have the inherent power to stop them. If you recognize yourself in this powerful warning, know that you are not alone. Thousands of empaths are waking up to these patterns, reclaiming their power and stepping into their sovereignty. Share in the comments below. What's one boundary you are ready to set right now to protect your sacred light? Your story might be exactly what another empath needs to hear to begin their own courageous journey toward energetic sovereignty. If you're ready to dive even deeper into Jungian psychology and how it applies to transforming modern relationships, explore my other insights on why you have no motivation left after facing your shadow, where we reveal what happens to your drive and ambition when you begin the profound process of shadow integration. Thank you for embarking on this journey of awakening. See you in the next dimension of understanding.